Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. This is Bobby Piton here with a market update for March 11th. As everybody can see, if they logged in today, the market update for March 11th. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. As everybody can see, if they okay. The markets are having another strong day based on the fact that Joe Biden is going to be signing into law the $1.9 trillion stimulus package. This is a pork-filled package. If you look at the fine print, it really bails out a lot of really bad behavior on a statewide level. It's extremely disturbing. This is a package that the taxpayers only are getting about 30 cents on the dollar. With the almost a $2 trillion price tag, to get 30 cents on the dollar, it doesn't seem like to be too good of a deal. It turns out to be about $12,666 of new debt taken on for every single worker in this country, and then maybe you get $1,400 back with live now with the market update. Okay, so basically, let's look at this. In the past 2 years, between this $1.9 trillion spending package and then the amount that was spent last year with the deficit, we've gone on the hook as a nation for almost $5 trillion. Actually, with this year's budget deficit, it's going to close in on almost $5 trillion, not billion. With this year's budget deficit that's forecast, that number might rise to about 7 trillion with the T. That's 7 million between the deficit spending last year, the deficit spending this year, that incorporates all of this ridiculous spending that's taking place. What's most disturbing about this package is that people that are not here legally in this country are going to be entitled to money, as well as their children, to the tune, I'm estimating, anywhere from 50 to 150 billion dollars is going to go to people that are here illegally. You heard that right. 50 to 150 billion dollars is going to illegal aliens in this spending bill. And there's a lot more money going to states to bail out states and cities. I know the mayor of I think it was Los Angeles is smiling because he's getting over $1 billion courtesy of the federal taxpayer. And this is extremely disturbing that this was able to pass and that we didn't keep at least one chamber in the 2020 election due to some issues that we all know about, and hopefully we'll get them fixed. But this 2-year stint here, as a result of the virus, the number that I'm looking at since the year 2000, when I think 2001, actually, if you want to get more specific, since China entered the World Trade Organization, the average American, the U.S. economy, if you look back in 2001, you fast forward to today, and you adjust for population growth and economic growth, we have taken on the equivalent of $20 trillion of additional debt. That's right, 20 trillion. 20 million millions. Okay? To give you an idea how much money that is, I want you to imagine that we gave 200 million Americans a check for $100,000. 200 million Americans a check for $100,000. That's how much debt we took on that exceeds what we should have taken on relative to population growth and economic growth. So the question is, how much of that 20 trillion, or said another way, $133,000 of debt for every single worker in this country was taken on above and beyond what should have been taken on relative to how many people were coming into the economy, into the job market, and economic growth. Something doesn't make sense. These numbers are ridiculous. This is extremely alarming. This seems to be some type of, when I hear these crazy schemes that they're trying to issue all this debt so that then they can turn around and say, oh, by the way, we'll let you get out of paying this debt, but then you got to give up these rights, or you got to do X, Y, and Z. At first you look at those statements and, you can't help but think, you want to laugh them off a little bit. What are you talking about? There aren't these people conspiring to do such things. But then when you look at the sheer numbers and you look at the game that's being played, we're being played on a massive scale. Today at 4 o'clock Central Standard Time, I'm going to be doing a broadcast with Jovan about H.R. 1. I pulled that bill down, and I'll just cut to the chase. When I pulled that bill down, today is 3/11. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Masons, I am not a Mason, by the way. 33 just happens to be one of my favorite numbers. 333, actually, if you want to get more specific, because of the symmetry. But these folks like the number 33 orders of the Masons or whatever. I understand, some of that. I've never studied it intensely by any means. But if you look at the bill, and I pulled it down, the H.R. 1 bill, because I did read over half of it, word for word. It's and you pull it into Microsoft Word, and you take the text version, you dump that file into Microsoft Word, and this bill looks as though it's 800 pages. Now, keep in mind, when you look at it in Microsoft Word, it turns out to be 330 pages and 133,899 words. So I don't think that's a coincidence. Now, there's 3 jokers that are involved in sponsoring this bill. You have Pelosi, okay, who's, I think, supposedly she has ties to Maryland or Baltimore, some type of crime syndicate there. Her family was involved. I don't know if it's true. I think we should definitely look into it. But the other person that's on the bill with Pelosi is another rep from the state of California. Her name is Lofgren, Lofgren. I never heard of her before, and I never really looked into her. But what I will tell you is that she started out as a staffer for a politician that was involved in the impeachment of Nixon. I mean, it doesn't get more deep state than that, folks. You have Hillary prosecuting Nixon. You have Bush convincing Nixon to resign. Then we open up trade with China. Then you have the Clinton and the Bushes controlled government for 32 years. And then this Lofgren shows up out of nowhere to be a co-sponsor, one of the 3 co-sponsors of this bill with Pelosi, and then no other than this gentleman by the name of, I don't know, gentleman's too nice of a word, Sarbanes. So obviously Sarbanes is the son of the Senator Sarbanes. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Sarbanes-Oxley law, this is something you should look into. Sarbanes-Oxley was passed after the WorldCom Enron debacle about 20 years ago. Coincidence? Yet again, another coincidence. A big tech bubble, a bunch of fraudulent schemes that cost investors hundreds of billions of dollars. And then sure enough, Sarbanes and then Oxley come in as senators to pass legislation called the Sarbanes-Oxley bill, which makes executives sign off on, attesting to the financials. Now, in principle, this is a great idea, but the consequences of all this regulation resulted in almost half of all the publicly traded companies delisting. Why? Because if it costs $1 to $3 million to stay a public company, why would you want to stay public? It costs too much money. So if you're doing $100 million in sales, but you have an extra $1 to $3 million of expenses, and your margins on your business are only 5%, why would you want to give up 20 to 60% of your earnings to stay public? You wouldn't. So what happens? You're kind of held beholden to the banks because you can't go into the capital markets to raise money to grow faster. So the mega corporations, the globalist corporations, is a huge win for them. knocked it out of the park. They were able to cut off small businesses and small emerging companies in the U.S. economy off at the knees. There's about 3,500 fewer businesses in this country. I think that, since Sarbanes-Oxley, that are publicly traded. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan, is the one that pointed that out. That's not my research, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I noticed that there was a contraction in the number of companies. I never had it added up the way he did in one of his annual letters. But this gentleman, Sarbanes, the senator from Maryland, this corrupt family that supposedly Pelosi, I think she started in Baltimore area, which is in Maryland. His son is the one chosen to be on, and he's the person that's listed first. What does that tell you? Sarbanes is the person listed on the bill before the Speaker of the House. So, when you look at H.R. 1, it says Mr. Sarbanes for himself, Miss Pelosi and Miss Lofgren introduced the following bill. So this junior House rep, he just got in. His name is ahead of the Speaker of the House. Now, what in the world is going on? We have no press investigating any of this. This bill is horrific. I'm going to talk about it today with Jovan at 4 o'clock Central Time, but let me give you a couple of highlights. If the prison system of the United States does not make sure that the prisoners that are being released are registered to vote, this bill allows the federal government to cut off funding for those prisons. Let me say that again. The federal government can cut off funding to prisons if they don't make the prisoners register to vote or give them a means to register to vote. Now, keep in mind, this tramples all over state rights, because if someone was a felon, they should pay the money back that they cost the taxpayers before they're allowed to vote. It's only fair. This bill is trying to strip away states' rights to have their own moral compass as to what they think is fair for the people of each respective state. That's just one example. Another example is if you try to verify somebody's identity, you can get fined. If you do it in the improper way, you can get fined up to, I think it was $10,000 and up to a year in jail. So individuals can go register to vote without any ID. They can just attest that's who they say they are. Can you believe this? Can you imagine if we walked to the airport, we went in line and we want to fly somewhere, and we tell the gate agent, don't worry about it. I don't need to show you an ID. What are you talking about? I'm just going to sign, I attest that I am this person, and if you catch me lying, I'm going to be guilty of fraud. But if you use the wrong process to catch me for lying, you're going to jail for a year. I mean, are you serious, folks? This thing is purely evil. Look at it, download it. I posted it on Telegram. Go look at this bill. This is absolutely disgusting what's taking place in this country. And it passed the House. And the question is, the Senate, we have enough rhinos in there. I'm a little worried that a filibuster where we need 60%, a filibuster is the only way to overcome it. You need 60 senators to join ranks. So if we have 10 rhinos jump in with the Democrats, they'll be able to pass this thing, which is extremely scary. So I think what we need to do and I sound like Phil right now. Oh, what we need to do, the person. Anyways, I had to do that. I can't stand the way he does that. He's one of Oprah's lackeys, I think. Anyways, with regards to the American public, if we want to get serious about solving this, we need to mobilize across every state, and we need to act as though our republic's life depends on it, because it really does. This bill is that evil, it's that bad, and frankly, once this bill passes, if I say something that they deem to be misleading, okay, or you say something to be misleading, they can sentence you up to 5 years in prison. And I think the fine was $100,000. I got to look at that fine print a little closer. This thing's 300 pages. And like I said, I read about 150 last night. All I can tell you is it's really bad. it is unbelievable how bad this bill is. And everybody should investigate these 3 people that sponsored the bill. Every single corrupt politician in the Democratic Party signed on to this bill. This is just pure evil. I can't stress it enough. You need to look at the fine print. Assume everything I'm saying is just made up, and then go read it anyways. Go read it for yourself, because it's this bad. And nobody's reporting on it. They just say, oh, here are some of the highlights of this bill. They're all bogus talking points to not have people dig into the weeds and look at this stuff. And so with that being said, I hope everybody does step in and start looking at it. I will be on today with Jovan. I sent the link out on some things. Obviously being censored. People, a lot of social media is censoring me because I'm trying to speak up against all this stuff. And so as a result, my name isn't even on that. Jovan didn't put it on, and I understand why he didn't want to, because he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be censored talking to me. So anyways, please chime in later and I'm really looking forward to hearing Jovan's interpretation of this bill once he kind of looks it over himself as well. So everybody have a wonderful day. Oh, I just want to end by saying the following. If we're literally at the 1-year anniversary of the markets, where we were like thereabouts, everything was like sold off tremendously. Intra-month, I think the stock market fell almost 40%, maybe more, in the middle of the month. And a lot of people, if they were fully invested in stocks, they might have gone down by more than 40%. Now, granted, it snapped back. My point is, as we're at near record highs on some of the indexes, and not that low off of recent record highs, please look at what you're doing in the context of how much pain you feel you can take and sleep at night. Talk to a professional. Now is the time, while things are going great. They're never going to tell you this on these major finance stations, to turn around and look at cutting your exposure when things are a record high. They tell you to keep going because things are going great. And who knows what's going to happen? Maybe we will continue to high because speculation and money printing will drive things higher. I don't know. Talk to a professional, everybody. All I'm saying is, if you didn't like how things played out last year, and you didn't like how much you went down, it is a wonderful time to re-examine how much money you have at risk in the stock market, in the real estate market, in the bond market, and anywhere that you have your money, look at it. And all I could tell you is, where people are like, Bobby, I need to be invested because I don't like to sit in cash with any of my money because it's not earning me anything. I want you to go pull up this ticker called TLT. That's the 20-year U.S. Treasury, which is supposed to be risk-free. Last July, that was $180 a share. Today, it's under $140. So that was supposedly risk-free. Now, a lot of those people that bought those treasuries, I bet you they wish they would have sat in cash instead of buying those treasuries. Just saying. Maybe they're okay with it because they're in it for the long haul. But the reality is they lost $40, which is probably 10 or more years. Actually, probably more than that. 10, 15 years of interest. So I hope it paid off for them by having to put that money to work, and it was burning a hole in their pocket. So please try to look at everything and take advantage of this opportunity. You can go to Preactive Investments, my website, and if you're looking to possibly examine what we do at Preactive versus what your advisor or how you manage things yourself, just contact us that way, or sign up for the newsletter and so forth. And we don't charge for our newsletter. So, and then keep watching these little modules, and feel free to take the information that you like, but nothing I'm saying should be construed as a decision to buy or sell or do anything. I'm just saying you should consider it for your own good, and make your own decision, but look at what that you're comfortable with. And that's all I can say. So have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for chiming in.